Hello, planet Earth, and thanks for listening again this week to Master English with Tim, the podcast where I help you to master English. I'm Tim, and I'm an English teacher, polyglot, and writer and world traveler from the United States, and I have been teaching English for 19 years, since 2005. Before I start this week's episode, I want to ask you to do something. If you listen to me on Spotify, then please leave me a positive rating, hopefully one with 5 stars. Or if you listen on Apple Podcasts, please write a positive review in the language of your choice, but hopefully in English. This week's episode is the last episode about auxiliary verbs before I give you, in the next episode, a small and interesting test about everything I've talked about, starting from episode 52. And then after that, we will move on together to things that are bigger and, frankly, more interesting than auxiliary verbs. The auxiliary verb I'm going to talk about this week is do. It's important to note, though, that like last week's non-modal auxiliary have, do sometimes is an auxiliary verb and sometimes it's not. Let's talk first about when do is an auxiliary. We use do as an auxiliary in the present simple and the past simple verb tenses. Actually, let's stop here for just a minute. Before we start working on do, I want to tell you that simple is not the best name for these verb tenses. You see, they are actually not very simple, because in the so-called present simple, you make sentences sometimes without any auxiliary, sometimes with one of around 12 modal auxiliary verbs, and sometimes with the auxiliary do. This is not simple, and it's one of the reasons why I spent the previous 7 episodes talking about all the different auxiliaries in detail. So, if present simple and past simple are not the best names for these verb tenses, then what is a better name? Well, in much older English textbooks, you could find the names present indefinite and past indefinite. These are better names because we use both of these verb tenses to talk about actions that happen either one time or many times. In present indefinite and past indefinite sentences, it's not the verbs themselves that tell us if an action happened one time or many times, but rather the other words in the sentence or just the larger context. Here are 3 sentences that show this phenomenon. 1. I went to the park this morning. This is one time. 2. I went to the park every day when I was a kid. So this is obviously repeated. 3rd and last, I went to the park. Here we can't tell if the action happened once or many times. Okay, so now we know that indefinite is a better name for these 2 verb tenses, so we can start working on our final auxiliary verb, do. Do is the auxiliary that we use with action verbs in the present indefinite and the past indefinite in some sentence types. Let's start with the forms of do. Here are the present indefinite forms. I do, you do, he does, she does, it does, we do, they do, nobody does, somebody does, and here's the one that a lot of people make mistakes with, everybody does. Everybody seems like it should be plural, but it is singular. Everybody does. So, there is only one past indefinite form of do, and that is did, so quite easy. Okay, now we are ready to practice the different sentence types with our final auxiliary verb do. Let's start with negative statements. Negative statements always use the formula S plus A plus N, which is subject, and then auxiliary, and then not. When we were working with sentences that already contained an auxiliary like can, should, or be, we put the subject first and then used the same auxiliary. So if we had can in the positive statement, we used can also in the negative statement or in a question or WH question. That will be different in our sentences with action verbs. We will need to add this week's star auxiliary verb do. So we will have subject, do, not, and then our action verb. Let's start with the present indefinite. 7 examples. 1. I don't smoke. 2. Amanda doesn't drink. 3. They don't need our help. 4. He doesn't understand English. 5. Our air conditioner doesn't work. 6. We don't live there anymore. 7th and last, it doesn't rain often in Texas. Now let's try with the past indefinite, this time 6 examples. 1. I didn't go to work yesterday. 2. He didn't call me back. 3. They didn't need our help. 4. Our air conditioner didn't work. 5. We didn't know what to do. 6. It didn't rain all last month. Okay, now let's do yes-no questions. All yes-no questions use the same construction, A plus S, or auxiliary and then subject. Again, in earlier episodes where we were making sentences with can, should, and be and other modal auxiliaries, we used the same auxiliary in the beginning of the sentence and then put the subject after it. With action verbs, though, the auxiliary verb that is in that first position is going to be do. Present indefinite, 8 examples. 1. Do you need help? 2. Do we need to leave now? 3. Do they drink tea or coffee? 4. Does your garage fix electric cars? 5. Does it get very hot where you live? 6. Do you want something else to eat? 7. Do you want to come with us? 8. Do they speak English? Now, past indefinite, 7 examples. 1. Did it rain yesterday? 2. Did you lock the door? 3. Did they call you back? 4. Did you like the movie? 5. Did you invite Anne to the party? 6. Did they fly or did they drive? 7th and last. Did the plane arrive on time? So, finally we can do WH questions. All WH questions have the same construction. Question plus auxiliary plus subject. That's QU plus A plus S. This is the same formula as yes-no questions. It just puts a question word at the beginning of it. Present indefinite. 7 examples. 1. Who do you know? 2. Where does he work? 3. How much does she earn? 4. How far do we have to drive? 5. What do you do on weekends? 6. When do you work next? 7th and last. Why do you sleep badly? Now let's use the past indefinite. 1. Who did you call? 2. What did she buy? 3. Where did you park? 4. What car did she buy? 5. Which car did she buy? 6. Where did your mom work? 7. Why did you leave the windows open? 8. How much did you earn last year? 9. How long did you sleep? 10th and last. When did we go to Italy? Okay, that's everything about do as an auxiliary verb. Now let's talk briefly about do as an action verb. Do has about 15 different meanings, and I'm not going to deal with all of them because it's really too much for one episode. The main thing that I want you to understand is that yes, you often use do twice in the same sentence. I'm going to give you now a mix of some of the different meanings of do with a variety of sentence types, where do is both an auxiliary verb at the beginning and an action verb later in the sentence. People are really often afraid of this. They don't want to use it twice in the same sentence. 8 examples. 1. What do you do? 2. What does your mom do? 3. Did you do the dishes? 4. Did you do your homework? 5. She doesn't do well in math class. 6. When you're young, sleeping too little doesn't do any harm. 7. He used to run and lift all the time, but now he doesn't do any exercise. 8th and last. I didn't do the laundry last night. Okay, we have now studied all the auxiliaries. Next Monday, or who knows, maybe even sometime during this week, I will give you a small test about action verbs and auxiliaries and different sentence types. And after that, I'm going to take you with me next week, the week after that, on a serious adventure to a place you have never visited for a much-deserved vacation after all of this hard work.